Hello, Aries friends. I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my Aries November 2024 Astrology Horoscope Forecast. Well, your ruler, our ruler, because I have Aries rising with you, is going retro. And so I'm going to do a very deep dive on what you need to know. You do need to know it now because the post-shadow or the pre-shadow period is deepening with every day we get into November for its impending retrograde. And this transit is long. So I'm going to help you understand what is going on here, how to make friends with this transit. It has come to be one of my most favorite transits from actually being one of my worst transits because I've come to understand how to navigate around this, and I want to share that with you. But there are also a ton of other things to talk about because we have a very early starting Sagittarius party. Usually it doesn't start till the end of November, but we've got it starting even before the beginning of November. So I want to talk about the implications for that because that is so exciting as a fellow fire sign to us. That energy lights us up, and this is just very, very good. Plus, it's dwarfing some of the Scorpio energies that tend to be a pain for us at this time. So that's also a blessing, and I'll get into all of those details. This is for you if Aries is your sun sign, your moon sign, or your rising sign like me, or any other Aries placement that you're listening for. What I'm going to talk about here is part of your astrological picture. And if you're a very late degree Aries friend, so birthdays like April 15th through the rest of the sign, or Aries placements like 23 degrees through the rest of the sign, I suggest you additionally listen to my Taurus report, as your very late degree friends will benefit from both readings. Podcast friends, I'm putting the thumbnail as the chart if you want to try to follow along. We are going to have a very strong focus in the top right quadrant of the chart, which we'll get to after I talk more about the list. If you don't want to see the visuals, you can listen to the podcast option, or you can just scroll up on your screen and listen rather than watch. And yeah, so we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, but let's go into this whole, actually, first I want to give you a general checklist for some do's and don'ts for Mars retrograde. You can also search for Annie Botticelli, Mars retrograde, and find a number of resources. I've also written a very long, beautiful hardcover book featuring a lot of the personal planet retrogrades. This is one of my areas of great expertise over time. I've been tracking them very carefully. So that book's called Planetology, How to Align with the Natural Rhythms of the Universe. But I will be giving you some information from there, and you can see that for more. Okay, so big checklist for Aries during Mars retrograde. I realize I should give you some dates first, and then we'll do it. October 8th was when the pre-shadow transit of the shadow period started. Every day we get closer to December 6th, which is the official retrograde. We're deeper in the web of this. And a very important thing to know about retrogrades that was not commonly known until I started getting super loud about it is that the shadow period is just as powerful as the actual retrograde. Yep, I'm going to say it again. If you try to play the game, and believe me, as an Aries rising and being super impatient, when my teacher told me about the shadow periods, she said, well, you can buy things, until the retrograde. And she said, but, be warned that there may be some implications by trying to play the game of fitting everything in the shadow period because the energies are still strong. And she was right. So I played that game of trying to do all the things you're not supposed to do in Mars retrograde during the shadow period. And I learned to not do that. So I'm trying to help you to avoid the same thing. It will be retrograde from December 6th until February 25th of 2025. And then the post-shadow transit will go all the way until May. So see why I have to make a big deal out of this. This is going to be affecting us for a long time to come. Okay, so I'm going to give you a basic checklist, and I'm going to go over just some basic understandings of retrograde versus direct energy. Big thing to know, we have to avoid impulse actions. Mars is the ruler of aggression and war and impetus and inspiration. So, we have a double-edged sword. We're on a planet of duality, and all the planets have that dual edge. Our ruler, Mars, which does co-rule Scorpio, but they have another ruler. So this is the one that we get to ourselves. This is the only one we have. Really does rule a lot of our traits. And Aries are not known for being patient, right? So that thing about us being impatient, the more we do that during Mars retrograde, the more it can backfire and boomerang, right? So Mars retrograde will often slow down momentum, and it's going to make it harder to act on impulse, and it's going to make other people slower to do stuff, which will be very annoying for us. So inner work and breathing and things that we can do to stay calm are going to be really important because Aries is known for their quick and decisive nature. But the frustration is the inevitable result when we're trying to push something through and getting hasty and trying to make decisions and rush into things, especially when it's going retrograde. It's not a time for that now. The tides are coming in. So if you imagine you try to push something out to sea and the tides are coming in strongly, it's just going to come back to you. So that just keep that visual in your head through this whole retrograde. If you're trying to push something back or out and it's coming back to you, oh, maybe you're not supposed to be doing that right now, right? This is a fantastic time to review your goals and strategies. You can reassess and experiment, but it's not great for implementing long-term plans. It's better for doing experimental things, but it is encouraging of the reevaluation of how effectively you're pursuing your ambitions, okay? Are there better strategies you can be using? That's a big question right now. Experimenting with those rather than committing to them is something that is good use of the energy. Can definitely expect delays in initiatives. It's not the time to spark a bunch of energy, although occasionally I do see the opposite end of the lazy spectrum come in, where sometimes you can get very hot and mono-focused on something, obsessively tearing through information or learning or a project or something when you get like completely hot and obsessed to the detriment of everything else in your life, perhaps. So if that thing is a healthy thing and that thing is a productive thing and that thing feels good and doesn't stop you from doing what you really need to do, then it can be a good use of the energy. But the anger and frustration is a big thing. I've talked about this many times and I will continue to do this because I'm an Aries going through life and our evolution with you. I've discovered that a lot of times when we're aggro, it's because our gallbladder, our pancreas, our gallbladder, our liver are not happy. So the more you can learn about how those organs work and how they get backed up, and, look into the possibility that there may be some insufficiency with your digestion and there may be things that you need to do to support that digestion. I've found for myself that simple gallbladder support, and I'm not diagnosing this for you, this is a delicate matter that needs to be addressed with your practitioners of what you need to do and how much and when, or if it's even an issue. But I've noticed that just gallbladder support has helped me to be so much more relaxed and so much more patient, because when your physical body is going through something and your organs are overloaded, you can feel overloaded and be more snappy. All right. So these types of topics may come up and you may be able to get deeper into resolution at this time. It's really going to be important to express frustration in a healthy way, because any negative, aggressive energy put out into the world or towards an individual can boomerang back to you. This is one of the world's worst times to start a lawsuit against somebody or do some sort of aggressive act of war, literally or figuratively, against someone, because it does tend to boomerang back or fly back in someone's face. It is, however, a really, really, really powerful time for inner work. And so you can reflect on how you assert yourself, how you manage conflict or not, how you pursue your desires, what areas you can grow in. It's a fantastic time for everything. RE, the prefix, is fantastic for the retrogrades, and November and December are completely covered in Mercury retrograde too, which I'll talk about those details later. But this is a very retrograde time of year for us, and especially, but really for everybody. So revisiting the past, taking care of physical health along the lines of these organs especially, or anything else pertaining to the head, the brain, the eyes, anything housed in the head, the neurological system, all of those can have a relationship to Aries and may need some help at this time. It's definitely a good time to avoid major life decisions or major life changes because you don't have the whole picture, and what you're musing about and considering about at this time may wind up being something you completely change your mind about when you get more information or when you get deep enough into it. So this month may as well just give you those dates now. November 8th, Mercury starts its shadow period. November 25th officially goes retrograde. December 14th, it stays retrograde until then and then goes direct until January 3rd, which is the post, the post shadow transit. So basically all of November and December are also covered in Mercury retrograde. Besides, we have deepening Mars retrograde. Okay. So that means it's even more reason to not make major decisions or major life changes. And you can expect some tensions in life because anything that was swept under the rug and avoided or put into the unconscious or the subconscious tends to have the rugs go flying in the air and all the stuff come flying out at retrograde time. But as much as difficult things can come back from the past, amazing things can also come back from the past. So you may have hobbies and fun things that you love, coming back from the past. And while we're on that topic, I want to talk about the signs that Mars will be retrograde in and the houses that it will be retrograde in for us. Okay, while we're doing our deep dive of Mars retrograde, we may as well cover this. So for September and October, Mars was in Cancer. So you will have found yourself in September and October doubly concentrated on home and family and housing. Your house, might have needed a lot of focus, your housing situation, your home and your family. As you hear maybe in the background, I've been spending this Mars in Cancer as I'm recording this, preparing for a hurricane that you hear right now. So hopefully it's not too disruptive. I can't help it. I'm trying to record as much as I can while we have power, and hopefully we'll maintain that power. But this energy of Cancer and Leo will be what goes on between now and into May of next year, because usually Mars spends around 2 months out of 2 months and 2 years, or 2 years and 2 months. So around every 2 years, we only get 2 months in a sign generally. But we have from September into May of it dancing back and forth between Cancer and Leo. So whenever anything happens in a certain sign in the sky, it also happens in that house related to that sign for us. So everything's always doubly true. So when Mars was moving through the sign of Cancer, which rules the fourth house, it was also moving through our fourth house, which made us double down on home and family, aggression, conflict, resolution, ambitions, getting work done, just really, really determined to get things sorted out there. And now in the beginning of November, it moves into Leo for a while. And then it will go back into Cancer, and then we'll go back into Leo, and it will just dance back and forth. So now we're getting really focused on our passions and our excitement and our kids and our true love and romance and our bucket list and our fun and our creative expression. And all of that energy, as Mars is in Leo, is going to trine our Aries. And as I told you before, there is a ton of energy in Sagittarius. The sun will get there, Mercury will get there, Venus is there, Pallas Athena is there, new moon will be there at the end of the month. And all of this is trining. We're getting these trines from either direction to our Aries placement. I'm very excited, and I'm talking faster than usual. Sometimes I have people say, can you talk slower? And my answer is always no, because I'm not going to talk slower. However, you can control the playback speed. So you just have to click the settings button and you can slow down the video. So if you find that I'm getting too rambunctious, then you can slow me down, because that's the only way you're going to do it. Okay, so yeah, Mars is going to be super focused there. All right, so let's see what else we have on our list. Definitely want to prepare for slowdowns in every area of life and let ourselves be lazy. Okay, as I said, we could have obsessive monofocus, or certain things could light up when we get super passionate about it. And in November, we are technically moving direct. So we may see some forward movement and some excitement and ambition on certain topics, but we may see ourselves getting lazy about certain things while getting super ambitious about other things. And we have to give ourselves permission to be lazy. That is one of the best ways to handle this transit. It's one of the best pieces of advice. If you look forward to this time, as I always say, for taking a break from yourself. I get to take a break from myself during the time that Mars is in retrograde, where I don't hold myself to as high standards of my ambitions, where I don't need things to happen as quickly as usual, where I'm more content with the status quo and the flow, and dealing with, easier to deal with things instead of monumental things. And if you can be that way, and then you could avoid the frustration that happens when you don't let yourself get lazy. Before I understood that this was going on, I would say, God, what's wrong with me? And I would force myself to try to keep up the pace and do what I usually do, not realizing that the universe was giving us a gift in not having to do all of that. Okay, so I want to just give a quick, before we leave this discussion, and I might jump back to it here and there, I want to give just a comparison of direct times versus the retro times. When Mars is direct and not in the shadow period, that's the preface, right? Because in November, it is direct, but it's in the shadow period, and it's getting more so every day. We want to avoid, or when it's direct, which was like before October 8th. Major launches, anything that requires extra energy, ambition, commitment, follow through, things involving metal projects, surgeries, new hairdressers, tattoos, legal proceedings, those things are better when Mars is direct, but we're not in that time now. So what's good for retrograde is work as usual, light or low stakes projects. If you want to experiment with something and the stakes are low, but the possibilities are high for what you can gain, that's great. You just don't want to gamble everything because you could lose it all. Doing your work in the backdrop, reflections and self-development, dealing with anger and resentment, gallbladder, liver, neurological systems, stepping out of victim mentality. Aries is not really known for that. We're happy to create our lives and do our work and do what we're supposed to do. But if you see any bits of stinking thinking rolling in there, you can deal with it. Avoiding reckless behaviors, voice and deed. It's fantastic for rest, vacations, and staycations, enjoying the fruits of past labor, clearing up unfinished business, and therapy. And if you get my book Planetology, you can see my no-go checklist. I have my no-go 4. So it's like I basically give you a checklist to help you run by your situation to make a decision on whether it's good to do at this time. Okay, so now we have other things to talk about. Back to this right quadrant here. We still have Vesta transiting South Node, Lilith, Astrea, and Juno, all in the sign of Libra, all in the house of Libra, which Juno has part rulership there. This is definitely a time that's continuing for relationships. One-on-one relationships of all kinds can flourish at this time, but because it's in opposition to Aries placements, there can also be conflict. So you may find that you're having to work through some things with people. And as long as you're not initiating the conflict, and trying to come up with a result or a good solution, just remember the rules of Mars retrograde, that anything aggressive you throw at people, even if they're throwing it at you, it can still boomerang back to you. So this is a time to try to find accord and find peace, or try to step away from situations if you can't manage to find it. But because of all this Libra energy, relationships are in the forefront. Then the sun, the new moon at 9 degrees of Scorpio on November 1st, and Mercury for a little longer, is all in the sign of Scorpio and the house of Scorpio for us as Aries. So that's deep relationships, with money, credit cards, debt, taxes, inheritances, things like that. So the spotlight of the sun is here, and we're able to elucidate some important hidden information. We can see our deep relationships for better and worse, and see where we've done well and see where we can still do better. Mercury may hold some very important conversations, and be extra aware. I go into this more in my November nuisances posts that I'm going to make. If you're not subscribed to my channel already and you like my work, make sure you like and subscribe and click the bell, because I've heard if you don't click the bell, then I won't go into your feed. And if you enable notifications, that will be the final piece. But one of the things I talk about in the November nuisances is right at the beginning of the month, we have Mars and Pluto in a bad relationship here. It's opposition. They're the two, Pluto rules birth, death, transformation, rebirth. Mars rules war, difficult angle. Challenges are coming up. Mercury is here calling for conversations in the house of Scorpio. Pluto rules the house of Scorpio. There's some kind of power struggle that may be happening at this time that has to be addressed, but just try to manage your energy. And if you have to write like 15 pages of negative things about somebody before you actually interact with them, and don't give them the letter, like rip it up, then whatever you have to do to get that charge off of it, without trying to get the charge off of it from having the conversation, if that makes sense. All right, so a lot of important inner workings and inner dealings going on here. But as I said at the beginning, we are kind of saved as a fire sign. Usually the earlier part of November is a little because that Scorpio energy, as beautiful and wonderful and important as it can be, it definitely, that water dogs our fire, and yuck, that does not always feel good. And we've already been going through it with the eclipse season in September and October. One of the great things about this month, making this lighter, is that we're not in the heat of eclipse season anymore. And since we are in an Aries Libra eclipse cycle, we're in the hot seat. So we're starting to, have a new normal come from the changes that came from the September and October eclipses. And that made September and October extra emotional. And so, since we're having so many Sagittarius planets happen earlier in November, it's sort of the fire scene is taking over and not having the excess water that we usually have. So, that's kind of a break for us. So, Mercury in Sag, Venus in Sag, Pallas Athena in Sag, the new moon on November 30th in Sag, and that will actually be a black moon because it's the second new moon in a calendar month. A black moon's either a second new moon in a calendar month or a zodiac sign. In this case, the November 1st new moon in Scorpio was the first new moon. Now this Sagittarius one on November 30th or December 1st, depending on your time zone, will be at 9 degrees. And those of you in the Eastern time zone and west of the Eastern time zone, so like to the left there, that will be a black moon. And for those of you who are to the right of the Eastern time zone, you will have your black moon at the end of December, around the 30th. That new moon in Capricorn will be your black moon. So a black moon is a time where we can go deeper into seed planting. We know that when we water and really give a chance to a seed to root, it can grow deeper tendrils and it can grow up stronger. So there's just extra energy about going internal and digging really deep to plant these seeds in very deeply rooted places at the black moon time. But regardless, all of it is in Sagittarius, and then the sun will get there on the 23rd. And that highlights the 9th house of Sagittarius for Aries. So it's like a crazy Sagittarius party, and we need to address this because it's one of the most exciting times of the year for Aries. So in general, this time with all of the Sagittarius is full of expansive opportunities to review and to strategize and to act in key life areas, especially with short-term or things from the past or experimental things. The energy of the sun in Sagittarius can bring this sense of adventure and expansion and optimism. It can, light up everything Sagittarian, long distance travel, different languages, different cultures, international business, spiritual, philosophical questions and studies, teaching and learning. One of the things that is great for the checklist during this time is to embrace your curiosity and just go out beyond your comfort zone. This is a time to learn, it's a time to grow, it's a time to explore, it's a time to broaden your horizons. And it's a time when the retrograde may bring back studies or topics to you from the past that were interesting to you. That new moon at the end of the month can be really great for seed planting along the lines of everything Sagittarius. So that's something, something to work towards your goal setting. The Sagittarius energy is just basically about dreaming high and aiming big. And when the energy is also in retrograde, we're looking backwards to see what we can do better to make our future goals come alive. So it's basically a reevaluation, a reassessment. Venus there is bringing warmth and adventure and possibly love and money, a desire for freedom, beautiful social interactions. It's an amazing time to explore new ways to bring adventure to relationships, creative pursuits, reigniting the spark in current partnerships, going back to old ways that worked in relationship and going back to old things that worked for your finances. It's a great time to run a promo to people who you've done a promo with before that was successful. Pallas Athena here and conjunct Venus also will bring the energy of wisdom and strategy and help you to approach problems with the perspective of a visionary mindset and look for these expansive, out-of-the-box types of solutions. This is a really good time for strategizing. Just keep in mind the retrograde. They should be short-term strategies rather than, you may giving a little lean towards a long-term goal, but it's really getting front and center about the habits that will bring success in the long term, but that can be focused on in this time. So basically, this is an amazing time for expanding your horizons, for setting bold intentions, for reassessing your long-term plans through short-term experimental or interim agendas, to inject adventure and love and creativity with independence and freedom, to strategize with vision, with all of these Sag energies making the most favorable aspect in all of astrology, the trine to Aries placements. If you're a content creator or a person who expresses or creates, you may find that you are prolifically expressing at this time. You may have very important conversations with people and connections with people from Mercury being there. That also rules some of the education part, but but there is this element of interacting with other people. One more date that I want to give you is the days around November 15th. There's the full moon, 24-degree in Taurus, which of course is in our Taurus house, not just the Taurus sign, and is also conjunct Uranus. I do talk about this more in the November nuisances report that will come out, but I just want to highlight it as well. In the days before and after and on November 15th, fullness, completion, fruition, drama, something earthly, manifesting, finances, security, maybe a big breakthrough there, or maybe a jostling. Uranus there is a wild card, and it can upset the apple cart, and it can really, take things that were sure and just turn them on their head, or it can give you ingenious ideas of how to bring much needed security or go to your next level of security or material comfort or environmental connection. Go either way. Conjunctions are not necessarily bad, and they're not intrinsically bad. They're just intense, so the wild card of Uranus is going to have its thumbprint on this full moon manifestation or full moon bubbling up from the unconscious space and elucidation of the topic of your earthly relationship to the material plane. If you like my work, please like my videos and subscribe. Click the bell. I've heard if you don't click the bell, even if you're subscribed, you won't know about my posts. And if you go even further and enable notifications, then you won't miss anything from me. I do post every month, as I have for, is this my 13th year now? I think this is the end of my 13th year of posting monthly. So I do that consistently, but I do also sometimes post random things if I'm inspired or I have the time or something important is going on. So you won't miss anything if you make sure to click the bell and like and subscribe. Even in the midst of a deepening retrograde, this is one of the most energizing and exciting months of the entire year for Aries. This fire frenzy, you will certainly be feeling it. We will have minimal nuisance, or minimal blocking from the Scorpio energies for once. And it's really just Aries' time to shine. Okay, so I've given you some dates to note for this month. If you want more dates because you want to see the sweet dates, the salty dates, when are the best days to do what? When are the best days to be awareful and careful of? Then go to anniehelpsyou.com, put your name and email address, and then click receive. And then you'll get into your inbox my welcome letter. In the archive, click on the archive link and put November 2024 astrology in the archive link, and that will bring you to my November write-up. Okay, so plus you'll get all kinds of goodies, and I'm always thinking of new ways to get goodies to my free VIP crew, which is what you become when you sign up there. You'll get my free 28-day, very comprehensive virtual coaching program for free. You'll get a Train Your Brain subliminal audio to relax and unwind to help you stay calm during tough astrological transits. You'll access my wonderland of astrology education to help you align with the natural rhythms of the month. I do send out monthly mini astrology lessons, and you do have access to all the archives as a member of my free VIP community. You also get access to my eclipse resource page to understand those cycles as they go through, and my health tips for the zodiac signs. So you just get so much. You can find it all in the welcome letter, so you can go there. Now on that same page, if you scroll down, you can access my secret star portal. This is where you will find my 2025 retrograde direct calendar for your planning, to know the open windows for next year, the times that will be much easier to push things out when the tides are going out. And if you want to learn astrology, I'm your girl. I've got a ton of free things. Obviously, if you're listening to my work, you see that I'm teaching for free. online. But if you want a more structured system and you want to learn how to become a professional astrologer, either just to help yourself and your family and friends or to earn money, that is my area of expertise. I've been teaching astrology for 20 years. I've been a successful astrologer for 20 years and also a successful online practitioner for a good bit of that time. And it all comes through in my Become a Professional Astrologer Mastery course. So you can click on Up Level there and see my basics course, or what you get that course for free when you join the Professional Astrology Certification course. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.